Liftoff. My name is Stephanie Newton, and I'm here with my pastor, speaker, conference leader, and author, Brother Jacky Connell.
Hey, Steph, how exciting it is to be back once again doing Liftoff. I say it often, but I love doing Liftoff. I just enjoy the freedom and the liberty of being able to talk just kind of off the cuff about leadership things that we discussed during Liftoff. And so many times I go back and I listen to this conversation and what we're doing, and I think, man, I needed to hear that. And so it really is a very special way of just talking and bringing people into the conversation. And hopefully and prayerfully, you're going to get a nugget or two that will propel you in your leadership executions. And I pray that if that happens to you, you'll contact us and let us know how that's helped you. So I love Liftoff. I enjoy the time spending and hanging out with you. So what we're going to talk about today, Steph?
Well, Pastor, instead of my thinking lately, I've been thinking about the two things that churches look for. And so last month we talked about going from good to great. And so we talked about how there are a lot of good churches, but they want to step up a little bit and they want to be a church of excellence, or they want to be a great church. And so what an awesome goal that is. And so we talked through that. And if you missed that, you need to go back right now and watch Going from Good to Great. But the other thing that we hear a lot of churches talk about, especially when places come here and they want to view our policies or walk through our campus, is they want to talk about going from small to large. Mm-hmm. And so there's some statistics going around about that. But Pastor, let's talk about going from small to large. What does that even mean?
Well, I think it's relative to what that means, and that's a great question. What does that really mean? You know, when you're talking about going from small to large, it depends on where you're starting from. I think that certainly defines a little bit about that. I've had the privilege over the years that I've been able to be the leader of this wonderful church of literally going from small to large. And when you think about that, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that certainly we need to process. But from when I think about it, 100's huge when you have 25 people attending. 500 seems small next to 1,000. So I think that when you look at that, there are churches that run 50. For them to go from being a small church to a large church would be going, how do we go from 50 to 150? How do you go from, 100 to 300? And so all of that process really, I think, can be defined as to what is your starting point. And, when I have visited churches that have thousands and thousands of people that attend. And so I think that all of that, we just have to really sit down and ask ourselves, what is the starting point of your term going from a smaller church to a large church? What are you trying to achieve? And I think there are some realistic measurements and expectations that has to qualify what that means for you. Because if you're just kind of looking at it from a realistic perspective, if you're a church of 50 and you go, oh, well, we want to go from 50 to 2,000. Well, you gotta, that's great ambitions, by the way. But let's just say that you're a church of 50 and you're thinking about growing larger, and then you look at your population of your area. What's realistic? How does that look? What about your facilities? What does that include? How many can you reasonably house? What's your plan in order to accommodate growth? All of those factors are involved in, thinking, well, I want to go from 50 to, whatever. There are costs to consider. There are adjustments that we have to make. There's some things that we have to sit down and kind of map out. How are we going to do that? Do we have the capacity to do that? Does that mean building another building? How are you going to do that? So numerically, it all sounds really, really exciting to go from point A to point B. But we have to realize there's a lot more to it than just some numerical growth. There has to be accommodations made. There has to be adjustments made. There has to be, a lot of those kind of things that we take into consideration proactively as we're doing that.
So a lot of it is about perspective then, Pastor.
Yes.
So often you'll hear someone say, I'm the pastor of a small church, or I'm the music minister at a small church, or the education director at a small church, or whatnot. Mm-hmm. But small is relative. So, Pastor, there's a statistic somewhere that says that most Southern Baptist churches are less than 100 people, and the next rung is they fall less than 250 people. So our church has been there. We've walked through those growth points, and Pastor has captained the ship as we've done that. So when a church is desiring to break through a growth goal, if they're at 50 and they want to hit 100, or they're at 250 and they want to hit 500, what are some common hurdles that they would experience? What are some things you would say, these are some things that we've seen and you can be prepared for this?
Well, I think that all of us in ministry can relate to what we call the flash fires. There are seasons when there can be real flash fires of growth, and you look at that, and I'm not downgrading the flash fires, but they don't sustain your church. So you can do a lot of churches focus on events to reach people, and you can create a flash fire to do that. But that's not going to get you your substantial growth that's going to be consistent. So I think one of the things that I look at when I look at how can you do that, again, re-emphasizing the fact that you need to sit down and look at the bigger picture of things and kind of, calculate that out. But I've always been of the opinion that I like to start the focusing factor on Wednesday night. That is, and I know there's a lot of churches that you have to understand that I'm speaking to you based off how we do church here. Now, that may not be how you do church where you are, but I can speak directly into how we do church here. We still have Sunday morning service, Sunday night service, and Wednesday night service. And I'm of the opinion that we have to do that in order to develop spiritual maturity, in order to deepen our members to a level of being able to involve them in what we call church muscle and ministry and maturity. So to me, it takes more for us here than just a Sunday morning service. If you say to me, Brother Jacky, how are you going to grow a church from point A to point B, where would you focus? I love focusing on Wednesday night. When we started growing here at Eden Westside, our number one goal was, let's try to get X number of people to come to Wednesday night Bible study. And so we put our eggs in that basket. We renamed it. We call it the Impact Hour. We got, promotional material and things together and gave our people a challenge to grow from Wednesday night in order to grow to Sunday, if that makes sense to what I just said. So we grew from Wednesday night to Sunday rather than focusing on Sunday. Now, in doing that, we were able to focus on how do we get adults in the Bible study to connect with the pastor and the pastor's vision, while at the same time developing children's ministry, student ministry, and those kind of things happening. So for me, we wanted to do it that way, and I still believe in that. I still believe if you can get people to come on Wednesday night and get them into a deep Bible study, it also gives them an opportunity to connect with the pastor in a more personal way, to hear more of the heart, more of the vision. You just don't have an opportunity to do that a lot on Sunday morning. So we did that. We kind of started the push for church growth, not from Sunday, but from Wednesday night. Then we shifted from Wednesday night into, at that time we called it Sunday school. Now we call it life groups or life discovery. So we wanted to make sure that we tried to get people come in on Wednesday night to be a little bit more in a more of a deepening relationship with Jesus, into a deepening walk of ownership of the church, into a more hey, this is my church where I go mindset. And then we funneled that into Sunday school or life discovery or whatever you may call it. And I still believe in that model. And I think that when you start doing that, of course, there's a lot of other peripheral things that you have to take into consideration. But with me and my mindset, that's a great way to do it. Now, in doing it that way, you don't want to compromise what I'm about to tell you. And that is, in today's society, you have to establish a great children's ministry. People will not come to your church and they don't feel comfortable bringing their children into church if you don't have security and you don't have a great children's ministry and you don't have structure. You gotta make sure that you cross your T's and you dot your I's on your preschool and children's ministry in order to get those people to come and buy into what you're trying to do to grow your church.
Well, Pastor, what kind of encouragement would you give to another pastor or a staff leader that is working so hard? It feels like God has given them a vision for growth. Like we've talked about the church of 50 going to 100 or whatnot, but they want to see God do this amazing thing. They feel like God's given them a vision to do it, and they're just working so hard to get it done. What kind of encouragement would you offer them?
Well, I think there's again a lot of answers to that question, but I meet pastors all the time and leaders all the time that want to do exactly what you said. They want to see that happen. And I think that some of the encouragement that I would give you is, first of all, take people with you where you want to go. It's one thing to go, oh, I really want to see the church grow. I really want to do that. But you've got to take people with you in order to do that. And I hear, people all the time, we're blessed here to have a great staff of people, but it hasn't always been that way. One of the things that I would say to leaders is build your volunteer base, not just putting them in a classroom to teach a lesson, but cause them to be part of your vision team and help them go with you. If you're gonna grow, just getting up saying let's grow is not going to get the job done. You're going to have people that you meet with and talk to and get them to buy into what you're trying to achieve. Take your people with you. That would be number one. Number two is don't get frustrated, because frustration can make you angry or bitter, and all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, these people don't want to grow, and you start mouthing those things and you start getting frustrated about it, and that just creates a negative environment. Keep your environment clean, keep it positive. Don't let it get bogged down with all kind of negative junk. Don't do that. Realistically in church work, And you have to realize that you go through peaks and valleys. And if we're not careful, we'll magnify the valleys more than we rejoice in the mountains of successes. So keep speaking positive things. Keep casting vision. Keep establishing goals. Now, here's something that I think is so important. I hear a lot of people talk the talk, but won't walk the walk. I hear a lot of people that want to grow that don't want to put the work into it. I hear a lot of people that set goals, but don't know how to set up points of execution. You know, it's one thing to want something. It's one thing to say, wow, we need to, but I'm just going to tell you, you got to be willing to do the work, and that's not easy. You got to be willing to pay the price to get it done, and that's going to cause you're going to have to buckle your chin strap and get after it and stay after it, and not just dream the dream, but execute the plan. And so when you look at church work, we know that it's a supernatural work. We know that Jesus has to build the church or it's not going to be built. But yet at the same time, he told his disciples to lift up their eyes and look on the field. Pray therefore that the Lord of the harvest will send forth laborers into the field. You know what laborers do? They work. And we have to be willing to put our hand to the plow and work hard. Ministry is not easy. By the way, I'm just going to give you some reality. People's not going to just give you church growth. Just not going to happen. You have to work hard in this day's culture to grow a church. And it's not going to be an easy ride for you. It's going to cost you something. You've got to be willing to pay the price. And so, a million things I could tell you on that, but, don't get discouraged. Don't be distracted. Don't become frustrated. Keep the vision clear. Keep the passion positive, and carry people with you along the journey.
That sounds like an amazing list, Pastor. I feel like we should inscribe that on a T-shirt or something. But what a great thing! And I love your thought about the positivity, to not let it go to the negative place, not to be frustrated or distracted, but to keep things in the positive place. Mm-hmm. Communicate a positive vision. People want to join a positive thing. Nobody wants to be part of something negative.
They really do, and you're going to have that time where you're working hard and you're catching the momentum, and then it's going to rain Sunday, and you're going to go in with this, and you know what? It's a punch in the gut. You on a rainy Sunday, you've lost 20 people, and you go, oh my gosh, what happened? And you know what? I feel your pain. I really feel your pain. But just press through that in a positive way. And I want to say this to you. This is, if you don't get anything else I tell you in this session, get this. Don't manage where you are, manage where you want to be. If you want to grow, put yourself there in order to get there. So many people manage their ministries where they are rather than where they want to be. So as a leader, you can't manage where you are. You want to manage where you want to be. So if you want to go from 50 to 100, then you have to start leading as if you're leading 100 before you get 100. If you want to go from 500 to 1,000, you have to start leading as if you're leading 1,000 rather than 500. And I just think that when you put that in your mind, Don't manage where you are, manage where you want to be. Set yourself up to be there before you get there. Work through all the issues before you have the issues. And what that's going to do is that's going to carve out a path for you in order to be a successful leader as you move ministry forward. So don't manage where you are, manage where you want to be.
I think what I heard you say in that is to be proactive rather than reactive.
Absolutely.
If you wait till you have the 1,000, then you'll be scrambling to get there if God were to bless you with that.
Absolutely.
You got to plan and structure and be strategic.
Yeah, and you got to look at that big blueprint, that big picture. What's it going to take for you to function at that level? And you have to prepare for that level while you're at this level. And I think if you do that, we all know the disaster of reactive leadership. That'll cause you a lot of heartaches and pains and disaster. So don't be a reactive leader, be a proactive leader. And if you're going to go wherever you're going to go in church growth, manage where you want to be rather than where you are. And that starts with you. It doesn't start with the church.
Well, there you have it. I hope that you feel encouraged to reach the growth goals that you set and to follow the vision that God has given you. Well, thank you for joining us for Liftoff today. We'd love for you to visit with us at jcimpact.org to connect with us about a leadership summit or other resources to help you achieve all that God has for you. So thank you for watching and thank you for sharing us on your social media platform.
God bless you. Thanks for tuning in.